folks ask me, how's it feel to drive a stock car flat out? I tell them, it's just a job like anything else. But that ain't the truth. There's just no way to tell how it feels. So I don't try. My seatbelt's tight. My heart's hammering against my shoulder harness. There's sweat under the padding of my helmet. Scared? Sure, I'm scared. But I love every minute of it. I wouldn't give up this racing game for nothing in the world. There's something special about running here at Darlington in the Southern 500. This old place is the granddaddy of big-time stock car racing. Don't count yourself a stock car driver unless you run the Southern 5. There's no track like this one for competition. That's why 60 or 70,000 fans are here, and there'd be more if it wasn't fixing to rain. Everybody's wondering if we can run this race or not. Now, I don't figure to win. There's some pretty fast equipment up front. Cale Yarborough on the pole, Buddy Baker, Leroy Yarborough, the Allison brothers, Richard Petty, Dave Pearson. All of them have factory-sponsored cars, and us independent drivers don't stand much of a chance. But once you've had a taste of racing, you can't never quit and be happy. The old Darlington Raceway's been repaved, and the third turn's 2 lanes wide now. This'll be a wild race if the rain holds back. The pole position winner, Cale Yarborough in car 21, has got to be first across the starting line. And there goes Cale as the green flag waves. Cale Yarborough has the lead. Buddy Baker fights off Donnie Allison to hold second place. They're flying down the backstretch. Some of us are half a lap behind the leaders as we spread out to get a little racing room. Cale's Mercury shows the rest of us how to go. Right behind Yarborough, there's a 4-way battle. Buddy Baker holds second position. Richard Petty in 43 and Leroy Yarborough in number 98 are giving each other fits over third spot. Takes Petty to hold position 3. Richard Petty's 4th. Donnie Allison drops to 5th. Cale's leading as Leroy closes in on Buddy Baker in number 2 spot. Yarborough's running 149 miles an hour, turning laps in 33.3 seconds. Leroy Yarborough passes Buddy Baker to take second. He's right behind Cale, who's still the leader. Leroy Yarborough puts the pressure on Cale. The other front runners hang back. If you can't lead this race, it's no use beating your car. Leroy wants the lead. He puts us forward right up behind Cale's Mercury. Those fellas are traveling better than 150 miles an hour, touching fenders. Trouble in the second turn. Bobby John slips through as E.J. Trevette and Ed Negra do some real damage to each other. The caution flag slows us down so cleanup crews can get to work. E.J. Trevette's okay. Nothing hurts but his car and his pocketbook. Ed Negra's all right, and both cars are out of the race. The rest of us slow down to 100 or so while the wreckers clean up. You don't realize how big this track is unless you get away a distance and look at the whole thing at once. 1 mile and 3/8 is a lot of racetrack to cover in less than 35 seconds. Track's clear, and we're ready to race. Cale and Leroy are at each other again. The field bunches up during the caution laps, but as soon as the green flag drops, the front runners are on their way. A year ago, Cale Yarborough beat Dave Pearson to win the Southern 500. Then last spring, Leroy won here in the Rebel 400. Both these fellas know every trick of this tough old track. Right behind the front runners, Dave Pearson, Donnie Allison, and his brother Bobby. Richard Petty's in trouble. Ooh, that hurts. Richard's had handling trouble since the start, and it looks like he just plain lost it in the third turn. The sheet metal took a beating, but the chassis may not be bent up too bad. There's no yellow flag since Richard slid clear of the track. And Cale Yarborough and Leroy Yarborough are still battling. Their last names sound the same, but are spelled different, and they're no relation. Petty won the Southern 500 in 1967. Fact is, Richard's won more than 100 NASCAR races, but this doesn't look to be his day. Richard's brother, Maurice, the chief mechanic, is working along with the pit crew. The crash put the front end out of line. This will put Richard a couple of laps behind the leaders. Leroy's moving. Leroy Yarborough dives low on the track where most fast cars can't run and grabs a lead. What a beautiful job of driving. There's the caution flag. It's starting to rain. While the caution flag slows us down, it's a good idea to refuel and get fresh tires. The front runners keep an eye on each other and make their pit stops on the same lap. As long as we get out before the pace car comes around, we don't lose anything. We can run about 100 miles on a set of tires and a full tank of fuel. There's Cale right there. And don't you believe he's happy with second place. Now you'll see something. The Wood Brothers pit crew is second to none in servicing the car. 20 gallons of fuel and 2 tires on the right side, and Cale's rolling in 20 seconds. The rain's getting worse. We can't run in the rain like sports cars do. These stock cars are too heavy. Our speeds are too high, and our tires just don't get a bite on a wet track. It's more like driving on ice than anything else. They've stopped the race. NASCAR officials are parking all the cars in the front stretch. If the rain had held another 40 minutes, we'd have run half the race and we'd have a winner. Now there's no telling when we'll get this race done. While the cars are stopped, nobody can do any mechanical work. We can't even touch the cars once we're out of them. NASCAR officials will lock the cars up overnight, if need be. The laps we've run so far are counted when the race restarts. There's nothing to do but wait, and that can put anybody on edge. This is my first race with time out for dinner. I don't think I like it. While we're waiting, let's take a look at the excitement during the week before the race. I think it'll cheer you up. It sure would help me pass the time. Now, that's better, isn't it? The sun does shine at Darlington after all. These contestants in the Miss Southern 500 beauty pageant are posing for photographers before the final judging. Whichever one becomes Miss Southern 500 will kiss one of us drivers at the end of the race. Since I'm not likely to win, you'll excuse me if I do some looking now, along with the photographers. You won't believe it, but the sun was shining all week at Darlington. It was fine weather for golf when 140 of the best players in the Southeast got together at the Firebird Invitational. I used to think that golfers had it easier than stock car drivers, but the pressure is just as great here as on the racetrack, and lots of folks to watch you make a fool of yourself. The winner, a hometown boy, Linwood Edwards, 19 years old, of Darlington. He's as proud as I'd be if I won the race. The pre-race action reaches a peak with a big parade through downtown Darlington. Now, downtown Darlington is not exactly New York or Chicago, but a parade's a parade, and kids are the same no matter where they're from. Television stars and important guests from every part of South Carolina. For a town of about 6,000, you gotta hand it to Darlington. They sure can put on a show. Don't that beat everything? Fire engines racing at Darlington on Labor Day. The rain stopped, and every kind of vehicle, except race cars, are trying to dry the track. Keep your fingers crossed we might get to finish this race. Most of the fans are still here. Race fans are a special bunch of folks. They won't quit unless we do. Buddy Baker's itching to go. He was running 5th when the rain stopped the action. Cale Yarborough's in 2nd place. He ran the fastest lap so far, better than 151 miles an hour. New track record. Richard Petty lost a lot of time in the pits, but he still gained. We're going to try to run. There's less than 2 hours of daylight left, enough to put this race in the record books, even if we can't finish 500 miles. Herb Nabb, the crew chief, looks over Leroy Yarborough's car. Leroy's got a lot of hungry drivers chasing him. One of them's Dave Pearson, 2-time national champion. Donnie Allison's ready to go in number 27 Ford. He could win this show. And the same goes for his brother, Bobby, in Dodge number 22. The racetrack's clear, dry, and fast. The 20th Southern 500 is set to run again. After some warm-up laps, we come off the 4th turn ready to race. Both Leroy and Cale made an extra pit stop during the caution lap, so they're back with the slower cars. But don't you worry about them. We're racing again. In the first turn, Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison lock up in a tight battle. Allison's a Charger who was running 3rd when the race was stopped. This is a battle for 2nd place. Cale Yarborough's in trouble. Cars are spinning all over the track. Leroy Yarborough threads a needle and gets through. Charlie Glotzback hits the wall but keeps control. Cale Yarborough slammed the wall broadside after he was hit by Buddy Baker. I can't see how Yarborough's car can race again today. Glotzback's car is still running. If it was me, I'd park it, but Charlie may have other ideas. Cale's through. No question about that. Glotzback brings his car around the track and heads for the pits. It'd be just like Charlie to try to get that car fixed. Glotzback qualified his Dodge at 149.5 miles an hour, fifth fastest in the starting field. Glotzback's crew is doing some hurry-up body work while Charlie sits calm as you please. Looks like the sheet metal took most of the impact. These race cars aren't like your ordinary passenger car. We got them braced and welded so tight they'll take a lot of punishment. Buddy Baker makes it to his pits on the backstretch. That car's still running after that collision with Yarborough. Glotzback's car is patched up good enough to run. While the caution signal's on, let's take another look at that accident. Try to figure out what happened. There's Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. Allison just barely tapped Cale's car, but it was enough to put Yarborough into a slide. Buddy Baker couldn't slow down and had no place to go but into Cale's car. As Cale and Buddy slid across the track, Leroy Yarborough just did manage to cut in front of them and get through. Charlie Glotzback bounced off the wall and squeaked through as Cale slammed the concrete right behind him. 2 seconds later, and Charlie would be on the sidelines now. The track's clear, and the caution car dips down out of the way. We're ready to race. Leroy Yarborough, the leader, has only one tough car to beat. Dave Pearson and number 17 Ford, right behind him. On the front stretch, the green flag waves. Pearson's been playing it cool. He's kept the leaders in sight and kept out of trouble. That's the secret that's made him national champion. It's getting dark, and the race will end after 230 laps or 316 miles. If Pearson's going to win, he'll have to get by Leroy soon. Pearson's got his work cut out for him. Leroy Yarborough's won on 5 major superspeedways this year, winning more than $142,000. That's more money than any other NASCAR driver ever made in 1 year. Pearson's taken home $136,000. Don't feel too sorry for him. The Allison brothers are racing for 3rd spot. Bobby in Dodge number 22 leads Donnie in Ford number 27. Off the track, they're real good buddies. But in a race, it's every man for himself. Donnie's fender was bent up when he tangled with Cale Yarborough, but the car's still running strong. Richard Petty in number 43 lets the Allisons by. Petty's still having trouble. Bobby Allison slides, and brother Donnie smashes into him. If that don't beat everything. It seems that Bobby got a little sideways in the first turn, caught the guardrail, and slowed down. Donnie couldn't help but pile into it. Sure is embarrassing hitting your own brother that way. Where I come from, family feuds start over a lot less than this. Again, the yellow flag slows us down as the track is cleaned and inspected. It's getting darker by the minute. Both cars make it to the pits, and by the way those crews are moving, I gotta believe they want to get back in the race. Only 26 of the starting field of 40 are still running. Donnie Allison seems to have got the worst of it. Banjo Matthews, his mechanic, sets to work cutting the sheet metal loose. Leroy Yarborough still leads Dave Pearson. They're turning laps at nearly 150 miles an hour. The independent drivers just keep down out of the fast groove and let the factory cars fight it out. All I can do is hope to keep her running and not do anything stupid. James Hilton loses his engine on the 3rd turn. When an engine blows, it usually spills oil on the track. If that oil catches your rear wheels, there's not much you can do but slide. Leroy Yarborough gets into the wall. Right near the spot Hilton dropped oil. Dave Pearson drops down and takes first place.
The yellow flag's out now, and Leroy is waving his arm, telling his crew he's going to need help in a hurry. This is a tough break for Leroy. There's no telling how much damage he did. This race is turning into a regular demolition derby. All the top factory cars, except Pearson, have hit something. Petty, the Allison brothers, Cale Yarborough, Buddy Baker, Charlie Glotzback, and now Leroy Yarborough. This keeps up, I might win this race. Leroy's in the pits pointing to his right front. The crew is all over that car trying to get her back on the track before the pace car and Dave Pearson get by and put him a lap behind. As long as you stay in the same lap as the leader, you got a chance to win. A safety car soaks up the oil dropped by Hilton's engine. Leroy's on his way. He's still in competition with Dave Pearson. That's some pit crew. Bobby Allison makes another pit stop as his crew burns off the bumper damaged in that collision with his brother. Track's clear. The caution car heads for the pits. Here we go again. Dave Pearson has a lead, but Leroy Yarborough's right on his tail and handling his car like he never punched a guardrail with it. It takes a lot of faith in your mechanic to run hard after a crash. Leroy's got enough bravery for two men. In third place, Buddy Baker keeps his foot on the throttle. Baker's the kind of man that'll run hard till the car falls apart. Leroy's drawing a bead on Dave Pearson and takes first place. That Yarborough's a race driver, all right. His car's fast and it's still handling just fine. On this track, you've got to have engine power and a chassis that'll go where you point it. That's what makes Darlington so tough. Pearson hangs in there, looking for Leroy to make any mistake. Leroy's sliding a little, but not enough to help Pearson. Leroy brushes the fence. That's got to slow him down. On the backstretch, Pearson catches Yarborough and goes by, taking the lead again. Pearson's crew chief, Dick Hutcherson, finds a short way to signal, "Don't do anything foolish." Charlie Glotzback, 4 laps behind, challenges Leroy. I got to believe Leroy's got his hands full with Pearson without having Glotzback in the way. 2 laps to the checkered flag. Pearson slides just enough to get into the guardrail. Leroy Yarborough closes in. It's one of those wild Darlington finishes coming up. This is the last lap of this race. Leroy's knocking on the door. Yarborough takes the lead. Less than half a lap to go. Here they come to the checkered flag. Leroy Yarborough wins the Southern 500, and his crew goes wild. The fans who sat it out for 7 hours have something to tell the grandkids about. This was one for the books. Average speed was only 105 miles an hour, but what a race. There's Leroy's Ford easing into the winner's circle. Like dozens of other great drivers, he's added something to the history of this fabulous racetrack. 7 hours after Gentlemen, Start Your Engines, Leroy's met by his crew, his friends, and the press photographers. Barney Wallace, president of the Darlington Raceway, hands him a check for $21,000, the winner's share of the $108,000 purse. Miss Southern 500 plants a kiss, and one of the Union Oil race stoppers is there to congratulate the winner. Leroy's wife, Gloria, joins him on the hood of the car along with Herb Nabb, his crew chief. Because of rain and wrecks, Yarborough's average speed was slowest in 10 years. But when we were running, Leroy was fast, and in competition, he was like nothing else in the world. This victory brings Leroy's earnings so far this year to more than $160,000, a new record. Yarborough said, "I don't know when I've run so hard for an entire race. I don't think I've ever been so tickled about anything in my life." I guess all of us would feel the same. There ain't many things a man can do these days as satisfying as racing. Most of us started when we were kids and didn't know any better. Without thinking, it's become our whole life. There's something about this game and about Darlington that gets in your blood. One of these days, maybe, I'll be in victory lane, proud as can be of my car, my crew, and myself. There's nothing I'd like more than to win at Darlington in the Southern 500.